The vast emptiness of space stretched before the New Horizon colony's outer sensor array, a silent guardian watching over humanity's most distant settlement. June Park sat in the dimly lit monitoring station, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the worn control panel. Outside the reinforced windows, countless stars glimmered like distant hope. It was supposed to be a routine day. Asteroid mining teams were out collecting rare minerals. Communication channels hummed with standard colony chatter, and the defense systems ran their predictable diagnostics. No one expected anything different. The first sign came as a subtle, electronic blip. Most operators would have missed it, a microscopic disturbance in the quantum communication grid. But June was different. His years of training and an almost supernatural intuition for potential threats made him pause. "Something's not right," he muttered, zooming in on the anomalous reading. Within moments, the quantum sensors erupted with activity. Space itself seemed to tear open, revealing massive silhouettes of alien warships. The Vorath invasion fleet materialized like nightmares emerging from darkness, their metallic hulls reflecting starlight with cold, calculating precision. 12 massive vessels, each easily dwarfed the entire New Horizon colony's infrastructure. Their weapon signatures were unlike anything human scanners had previously recorded. Energy patterns that bent physical laws, weapon systems that could potentially vaporize, entire settlements with a single discharge. June's hands flew across the control panel. No time for protocols, no time for bureaucratic communication chains. This was survival. Colony defense alert. Immediate action required. His voice rang through every communication channel. The colony, which moments ago had been a peaceful settlement, of miners, engineers, and their families transformed. People who were drinking coffee, playing games, or working on routine maintenance suddenly became potential defenders of humanity's most distant outpost. Yoon Kim, the colony's lead defense engineer, was already moving. Her team had spent years preparing experimental defensive systems, technologies that blurred the line between mining equipment and potential weapons. She understood something the Vorath didn't. Human survival depended on creativity, not just firepower. The alien ships began their approach, their weapon systems charged with an eerie blue-green energy, casting ghostly illuminations across the colony's protective dome. They clearly expected minimal resistance. Their historical data suggested humans were a relatively new spacefaring species, technologically primitive and easily conquered. They were about to learn how wrong they were. June's fingers danced across communication arrays, simultaneously alerting nearby human outposts and preparing the colony's initial defensive protocols. Every second counted. Every decision could mean survival or complete annihilation. The Vorath ships moved with mechanical precision. No wasted energy, no unnecessary movements. Each vessel represented centuries of refined military technology, computational systems that could process battle scenarios faster than human brains could comprehend. But they didn't know humans. They didn't understand human unpredictability. As the first energy weapon charged, preparing to potentially obliterate the colony's protective dome, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, the colonists moved with coordinated efficiency. Mining lasers repositioned. Communication arrays transformed. Experimental shield generators hummed to life. June looked out the window, watching the alien armada approach. A slight smile crossed his face. The Vorath thought this was an invasion. Humans saw it as an opportunity to prove something fundamental about their species. They would not be easily conquered. They would not surrender. First contact was happening, and humanity was about to show exactly what they were made of. The stars seemed to hold their breath, waiting for what would come next. The first Vorath energy blasts struck the colony's outer defensive perimeter with devastating power. Most would have expected total destruction. Instead, something unexpected happened. Yoon Kim's modified mining lasers flickered to life. These weren't standard weapons. They were repurposed industrial tools transformed into precision defense systems. Where traditional military hardware might have failed, these experimental devices began their strange dance of survival. The colony's communication arrays, typically used for tracking asteroid movements and managing supply chains, suddenly became something entirely different. Complex signal patterns disrupted the alien weapon targeting systems. Each burst of electromagnetic interference was like a digital punch, pushing back against technologically superior invaders. June watched from the monitoring station, his hands moving with calculated precision. Years of preparation were now being tested. The colony wasn't just defending itself, it was demonstrating human adaptability. Vorath commanders observed in growing confusion. Their battle simulations didn't account for this type of resistance. Mining equipment redirected as weapons, communication arrays used as defensive shields. This wasn't in any standard invasion protocol. 3 mining drones originally designed for collecting rare minerals suddenly transformed. Their laser-cutting tools meant for separating asteroid fragments now targeted specific weak points in alien ship configurations. Each precise strike created microscopic structural damages that would cascade through the Vorath vessel systems. The first alien ship started experiencing unexplained system failures. Navigation computers flickered. Weapon synchronization collapsed. What seemed like a simple colony defense was turning into a nightmare of technological disruption. Yoon's team worked like a perfectly synchronized machine. No panic, no fear, just pure, calculated human innovation. They understood something fundamental. Survival wasn't about having the biggest weapons, but about using available resources most effectively. One Vorath tactical officer watching the engagement began to realize they had dramatically underestimated humanity. These weren't just colonists. They were adaptive fighters who saw every piece of technology as a potential weapon. A massive energy blast from a Vorath warship targeted the colony's main protective dome. Traditional defenses would have collapsed immediately, but June had prepared something different. The dome wasn't just a protective structure, it was a complex adaptive system. Layers of reinforced metamaterials absorbed the initial impact. Embedded quantum communication nodes redirected energy signatures. What should have been a destructive blast became a momentary light show, with alien weapon energy dissipating across the dome's surface. The Vorath fleet hesitated. Their entire invasion strategy relied on overwhelming technological superiority. But here, against this small human colony, something was going wrong. Scattered reports began filtering back to Vorath command. Not of an easy victory, but of increasing system complications. Each human defensive action was unconventional, unpredictable. Traditional military computational models couldn't calculate appropriate responses. Yoon smiled slightly. Their defensive strategy wasn't about matching alien technology. It was about breaking their computational expectations. Every action was designed to create confusion, to introduce variables that alien systems couldn't immediately process. 3 more mining drones launched, their cutting lasers now modified with experimental signal disruptors. They weren't trying to destroy Vorath ships. They were trying to create maximum computational chaos. June's voice remained calm over the colony's communication channels. All units maintain current defensive protocols, redirect, adapt, survive. The Vorath fleet's initial confidence began crumbling. What was supposed to be a simple planetary subjugation was transforming into an increasingly complex engagement. These humans weren't just resisting, they were rewriting the entire concept of defensive warfare. As the first hour of invasion concluded, something became clear. This wouldn't be the quick victory the Vorath had anticipated. This would be a fight where human creativity became the most dangerous weapon of all. The battle for New Horizon Colony had truly begun. The colony's research laboratory buzzed with intense energy. June stood beside Yoon, watching multiple holographic displays that flickered with complex data streams captured from the alien invasion fleet. What most would see as random electronic noise, they saw as an opportunity. Vorath communication protocols were sophisticated, but not unbreakable. Human adaptability was about to prove itself once again. We can use their own systems against them, Yoon muttered, her fingers dancing across quantum decryption interfaces. Years of studying advanced communication technologies were about to pay off. One of the junior technicians, a young woman named Hyejin, discovered something remarkable. The Vorath fleet's communication network wasn't just a communication system, it was a centralized neural network. Each ship shared computational resources, creating a massive interconnected intelligence. But interconnectedness meant vulnerability. June quickly understood the potential. If they could introduce a carefully designed algorithmic disruption, they could create systemic failures across multiple alien vessels simultaneously. The first experimental signal went out. It looked like a simple communication ping, harmless and routine. But embedded within those quantum frequencies were complex mathematical sequences designed to create computational confusion. One Vorath warship suddenly experienced navigation drift. Another's weapon systems began firing random, uncoordinated bursts. A third ship's life support systems started fluctuating unpredictably. The alien fleet's computational collective was experiencing something it had never encountered. Genuine, unpredictable human interference. Hygien's algorithm worked like a digital virus. It didn't destroy systems, it confused them. Each signal was a puzzle the alien computational networks couldn't immediately solve. Their rigid logical systems were being attacked by pure human creativity. "We're not breaking their technology," June explained to his team. "We're making them question their own technological assumptions." Within minutes, the Vorath fleet's perfect coordination began to collapse. Ships that were moments ago moving in perfect synchronization now seemed lost, confused, their computational networks struggling to maintain basic operational parameters. The breakthrough wasn't about superior firepower. It was about understanding that technology was just another language, and humans were exceptional language hackers. Yun modified mining communication arrays, turning them into advanced signal generators. Each broadcast carried carefully constructed, mathematical sequences that looked like normal communication traffic but contained deep, disruptive potential. One senior Vorath tactical officer watching the engagement began to realize something terrifying. These humans weren't just defending. They were learning and adapting faster than any species in their historical records. The colony's experimental defense systems weren't traditional weapons. They were intelligent, adaptive technologies that could transform based on incoming threat parameters. A communication array could become a weapon. A mining laser could become a precise surgical tool of technological disruption. 3 Vorath ships began experiencing total system failures. Their advanced computational networks, designed for perfect efficiency, were being overwhelmed by human-generated signal chaos. Redirect. Adapt. Survive, June repeated. The colony's unexpected battle mantra. Hygien's algorithm continued spreading. It didn't destroy alien systems. It made them question their own operational logic. Each signal was a tiny seed of doubt, growing exponentially through the Vorath fleet's interconnected networks. The invasion was no longer about physical combat. It had transformed into a battle of technological imagination. As hours passed, the Vorath fleet went from a perfectly synchronized military machine to a confused, increasingly isolated collection of vessels. Their technological superiority was being systematically dismantled, not through destruction, but through intelligent, creative disruption. Humanity had just demonstrated something profound. True technological power wasn't about having the most advanced systems. It was about understanding how to make those systems question themselves. The battle for New Horizon Colony was shifting, and the humans were just getting started. The communication chamber hummed with quiet intensity. June understood that wars weren't just fought with weapons, they were won in minds. Vorath military structure was rigid, hierarchical. Each soldier followed precise computational commands without questioning. Their entire civilization believed in perfect obedience. They were about to meet humans. Yun developed a sophisticated psychological warfare strategy. Instead of traditional communication, they would broadcast carefully designed messages that would create doubt, confusion, and internal conflict within the alien military structure. The first transmission looked like a standard communication burst, but embedded within those quantum frequencies were complex psychological triggers designed to exploit the Vorath's computational thinking. Messages suggested multiple human battle groups were converging. Fictitious communication logs indicated massive reinforcement fleets preparing to attack. Each broadcast was a carefully constructed lie that looked absolutely authentic. One Vorath communication officer began experiencing unexplained stress responses. His computational logic circuits detected potential threats from multiple directions. The human colony wasn't just a single target. It was becoming an impossible-to-predict threat. Hyojin's team intercepted Vorath internal communications. They discovered the aliens communicated through strict hierarchical channels. Any deviation from standard protocol was considered a critical failure. Humans would use this against them. Deliberately mistranslated communication signals suggested internal betrayal. Some transmissions implied certain Vorath commanders were intentionally sabotaging mission parameters. Others hinted at potential punishment for mission failures. The Vorath fleet's perfect coordination began crumbling. Commanders started questioning each other. Communication channels filled with suspicion. Where there was once unified purpose, now uncertainty grew like a digital cancer. June watched the psychological warfare unfold. Each transmission was designed to create maximum confusion. They weren't just defending. They were systematically destroying the alien military's internal trust structures. Experimental signal broadcasts suggested massive human technological capabilities, far beyond what the Vorath had initially detected. Fabricated technical schematics showed advanced weapon systems that didn't actually exist, but they looked completely real. One Vorath tactical unit began experiencing what humans would call paranoia. Their computational systems detected potential threats everywhere. Every communication became a potential moment of betrayal. The colony wasn't large, but through intelligent psychological manipulation, they were making themselves seem like an impossible, unpredictable threat. Understood something fundamental. The Vorath's greatest weakness was their belief in perfect logical systems. By introducing calculated irrationality, they could create maximum disruption. Fabricated communication logs suggested internal conflicts within human colonist groups. Some transmissions implied potential surrenders. Others suggested aggressive counterattacks. The information was deliberately contradictory. The Vorath fleet's computational networks began experiencing what humans would call cognitive dissonance. Their systems were designed for perfect information processing, but these human communications defied standard logical interpretation. Hyojin's team continued generating complex psychological interference. Each transmission was a carefully designed puzzle that human minds could navigate, but rigid alien computational systems could not. June watched multiple holographic displays. The Vorath fleet was no longer a unified military force. They had become a collection of increasingly paranoid, confused vessels. Their own communication systems were becoming their greatest weakness. One senior Vorath commander began experiencing what humans would recognize as anxiety. His computational logic circuits detected multiple impossible scenarios. The human colony was transforming from a simple invasion target into an unknowable threat. The psychological warfare wasn't about destroying the Vorath fleet. It was about making them destroy themselves. As transmission after transmission continued, the alien military structure began collapsing from within. No weapons fired. No physical combat occurred. Pure psychological manipulation was dismantling an entire invasion force. Humanity had just demonstrated its most powerful weapon, the ability to turn an enemy's strengths into fundamental weaknesses. The battle for New Horizon Colony was entering its most critical phase, and the humans were just getting started. The primary Vorath command ship hung in space like a massive metallic predator, now wounded and confused. Yun Kim studied the vessel's schematics, her mind working faster than most computational systems could process. "We have one chance," she told June, pointing at a complex network junction deep within the alien ship's central systems. A small strike team of 3 colonial specialists prepared for the most dangerous mission in human history. Their objective wasn't destruction, it was precise surgical intervention. Hyojin had developed a sophisticated viral algorithm. It wasn't a traditional computer virus. This was a quantum-level communication disruptor designed to create total systemic collapse. The team's small reconnaissance shuttle moved with impossible silence. Vorath sensor systems, already compromised by previous psychological attacks, failed to detect their approach. Where most would see an impossible mission, these humans saw an opportunity. Their entry point was a maintenance communication port, a tiny access point most military strategists would overlook. But humans didn't think like traditional military minds. They saw possibilities where others saw limitations. As they breached the ship's outer hull, the team moved with calculated precision. Each movement was rehearsed, each action planned with mathematical accuracy. They weren't just infiltrating an alien vessel, they were conducting a surgical strike against an entire invasion force. The Vorath Command Center represented the pinnacle of their technological achievement. Massive computational arrays stretched across multiple decks. Holographic displays showed real-time battle information. Thousands of alien personnel moved with mechanical efficiency. They would soon discover how quickly that efficiency could collapse. Hyejin's viral algorithm wasn't about destroying systems. It was about making those systems question their own fundamental operational parameters. Each quantum signal was designed to create cascading computational confusion. The first signs of disruption appeared subtly. Communication channels began experiencing unexplained interference. Weapon targeting systems started showing random, impossible calculations. Life support mechanisms began fluctuating unpredictably. UN had designed the algorithm to be almost alive. A digital organism that could adapt, learn, and spread faster than any traditional defensive system could detect. Within minutes, the entire Vorath command ship began experiencing total systemic failure. Not through destruction, but through intelligent creative disruption. Weapon systems started firing at random coordinates. Navigation computers generated impossible travel routes. Communication networks collapsed into meaningless noise. The alien personnel experienced something they had never encountered: genuine, total computational chaos. June monitored the operation from the colony's defense center. Each transmission confirmed their success. The Vorath weren't just being defeated, they were being systematically dismantled from within their own technological infrastructure. One Vorath commander watched in growing horror as his entire fleet's computational network began collapsing. Their perfect, rigid military structure was being transformed into total confusion by a handful of human specialists. The strike team completed their mission and retreated. No dramatic explosions, no traditional combat, just pure, intelligent technological intervention. As the Vorath command ship began its slow, inevitable drift toward total system failure, the remaining invasion fleet started experiencing similar disruptions. Their perfect coordination dissolved into chaos. Humanity had just demonstrated something profound. Technological superiority wasn't about having the most advanced systems. It was about understanding how to make those systems question themselves. The invasion was over, not through traditional warfare, but through human creativity, adaptability, and an understanding that true power comes from intelligence, not just technological complexity. New Horizon Colony had not just survived, they had redefined the entire concept of defensive warfare. The stars watched silently as the Vorath fleet drifted, defeated not by weapons but by the most dangerous force in the universe: human imagination.